He is a player that we have been known to be interested in. So does that spell the end for Aaron Ramsdale? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Gooner channel, a channel 100% dedicated to the Arsenal, who, as we all know, are by far the greatest team the world has ever seen. And after a thrilling and rollercoaster, adrenaline-filled ride through the first part of the transfer window, it has all been a little bit, quiet. Nicely quiet. Not disturbingly quiet. Not frustratingly quiet. But just, we've had the pre-season tour of the US. Had the one bad game against Man United. But things are settling in. We haven't seen quite as much of Declan Rice as we'd want to, but Timber looks solid and Kai Havertz scored twice. Things are settled down in a way that you could almost imagine there isn't another player coming in. Perhaps we'll nick a bargain right at the end of the window if someone's desperate and needs to get rid of someone. But I think it's obvious that we're now concentrated far more on players out. Through that, though, we are still linked with players. We were linked with Mbappe because he apparently said of all the clubs in the Premier League, that's the one he admired most. We were linked with Raya, who is Napoli's golden winger. It looks like they might have to sell one of him or Osimhen, and they might settle for selling him if they can keep Osimhen. But there has been a huge bid for Osimhen from Saudi Arabia. So no one really knows. I don't think there's much to that. I mean, we have got one of the world's best left wingers already, and having both and the amount that he would cost is huge. But there's also been more sort of believable stories. Mohamed Kudus from Ajax is one. Then out of nowhere, a story that popped up about Bitelo, a young Brazilian playing at Grêmio, which seems to have disappeared. One story that's popped up in the last couple of days, which is a little different because it feels serious. It feels like this is a real Arsenal move here, is David Raya, Brentford's 27-year-old shot stopper, statistically one of the Premier League's best goalkeepers, kept 12 clean sheets for Brentford last season. Statistically, in some ways, actually better than Ramsdale, particularly when it comes to passing. And he has apparently decided he's not going to extend his contract at Brentford, which means this is the last season that he would be contracted, which means that if they want to get any money for him, and it is part of Brentford's policy to sell players, then this is the summer they've got to do it. They're apparently holding out for a 40 million valuation, and we value him closer to 30 million. This all seems true. It's got that kind of stamp of authority about it. He is a player that we have been interested in for some time, and one of the reasons for that is that Arsenal's goalkeeping coach Inaki Kane was actually at Brentford for a few months with David Raya, and obviously speaks very highly of him. He's a player that we have been known to be interested in. So does that spell the end for Aaron Ramsdale? Well, on the surface, this is what we can say. David Raya is unlikely to be joining a club where he's not going to get any minutes because he is Spain's number 2 goalkeeper, and if he has any chance at all of playing in the World Cup, it's going to need to be on the back of a good performance this season, you would imagine. But Ramsdale's in exactly the same position, and so he's not going to want to give up any minutes at all. Interestingly for us, so is Matt Turner, the United States shot stopper, who recently has been playing really well. He's going to need minutes as well. So obviously we can't keep all three. There has been increasing press around the idea that Matt Turner might be perfect for Nottingham Forest, and that would be a great move for him because if he gets to be number 1 at Forest, he gets a season playing, raises his profile, and that's got to be good for him. So let's say he leaves and we're left with David Raya and Aaron Ramsdale. Now, I don't imagine there's a world in which Arteta has sat down with David Raya and said, if you join Arsenal, you're our instant first choice number 1. I don't believe that for a minute. I don't think Ramsdale's performed badly enough for that to be necessary. But I think if there are detractors for Ramsdale, and there are few, and I love him, he's a hero, I think the detractors will say, or I've heard them say, that he sometimes loses focus and concentration. And that might be, he's always up for the big games, but it might be because there isn't that competition over his shoulder. So is this the perfect time to bring in somebody to get the best out of Aaron Ramsdale? Well, if that's what he's coming in to do, then David Raya is going to be disappointed in the number of minutes he gets. But if, on the other hand, we give Raya a chance and he comes in and is better than Ramsdale, well, that's just football, isn't it? Now, the reason that a lot of people can't see this happening is because Arsenal traditionally don't have two first choice goalkeepers. I was on a football podcast with Lee from Football Dad's Army earlier, and he pointed out John Lukic and David Seaman. But that's a good example of what I'm saying, is that John Lukic was our outstanding keeper in '89, and I was surprised, as everyone was, when we went and signed at that point England's most expensive goalkeeper in David Seaman. I think it was £1.1 million. How times have changed. But we signed him, and no one thought we needed to replace John Lukic. But given the way Seaman performed from 91 onwards, I don't think anyone could. Maybe Aaron Ramsdale is John Lukic. I'm not saying I think that, but it isn't impossible that just because we can't see it at the moment, that David Raya might not come in and do better, which is great for his minutes for the World Cup. It really sucks if you're Aaron Ramsdale. But the idea that you can't play two because there'll be so much discontent, I think, is a little misleading. I think all professional athletes and sports people at this level, this is elite level, remember, are used to competition, and they're used to playing for their position and having someone breathing down their neck. I think we'll get the best out of both of them in that scenario. So the only question that remains is, why would David Raya, why would you take a risk and move when you could stay at Brentford? Well, maybe he would stay at Brentford, but Brentford want to cash in on him, so he's got to go somewhere. Maybe your profile, if you make it at a club like Arsenal in the run-up to the World Cup, that'll do it for you. So maybe he's throwing the dice. Maybe he's gambling. Maybe he's really enamoured by the project and the chance to work again with Ikani Kane. Personally speaking, I think this would be a fantastic transfer if we could get Matt Turner to Forest, if we could bring in David Raya. And I say that with love for Matt Turner. I've been really, ever since he joined the club and did a really great interview, he feels like a player who's given his best. Disappointing at times, certainly in the away leg at Sporting, stands out. I don't feel confident that if it came to it and there were 10 games to go in the season and we were neck and neck for the title and something happened to Ramsdale, I'd feel a lot better if David Raya was on the bench than I would if it was Matt Turner. So on that basis alone, it's an upgrade. The price seems a bit of a stumbling block. They're holding out for 40 million. We're offering nearer 30 million, but it doesn't seem like an insurmountable difference. Maybe it's not a deal that we have to do quickly either, by the way. Maybe this is a deal that we can drag on a little bit. Maybe we can just see how it plays out for Brentford. If someone better comes along, we can make a joint offer. I think that at the moment, with the squad as set up as it is, the only big transfer out that seems to be talked about every single day is following Balogun. I had my doubts all the way along about Inter's interest in him. I don't think he's high profile enough for them, and it appears today that they have pulled out. And so following Balogun, who is training alone, is possibly going to have to find a club on his own, is possibly going to have to find a club quickly, or we might be seeing out the last year of his contract with us. And I think if we give him some minutes and he does really well, who knows what could happen there. But the other slight surprise, if you will indulge me for a little moment or two longer, the other slight surprise in the transfer window has been that we haven't really gone out for any cover on the right-hand side. I've seen Moussa Diaby go to Villa and score in the pre-season friendly. Ousmane Dembele now looks on the verge of joining PSG. Bernardo Silva may be going to Barcelona. There is movement around. I mean, obviously, Mohamed Kudus is a right-sided player, and rumours have started to circulate about our interest on that side, but not on the level that you would have expected, really. Not if it was an urgent or pressing problem. Now, I know we've signed Kai Havertz and he can play out there, and obviously we have Gabriel Jesus. We have the kind of team that could fit in, but there's no like-for-like Saka replacement. Obviously, Nelson can play on the right, but he's been playing on the left. Is the reason that we're not after any of these right-sided players or really going after them, is it because we have a superstar in our midst? Bukayo Saka broke through at 17. Mario Koscielny is the same age. I really have a feeling that he is somebody who is being seen as a player that can come in and cover for Bukayo Saka, play through this number 8 position possibly. But I just want to flag this because it's something that I've been thinking about a little bit. When I watch him, his curling left foot goals that remind you of Bukayo Saka, his beautiful passing through balls and around defenders, his running at pace with the ball, elegant typical Arsenal. When I watch him, though, I'm not reminded of Bukayo Saka as much as I am, and I hate to say this, but Thierry Henry. Is that too much pressure to put on the young man's shoulders? Yeah, of course it is. What am I doing? I'm an idiot. Don't listen to me. But there is something about him. I think he's really good in front of goal. And I think that if we could give him a few games, maybe League Cup games, maybe Premier League substitution appearances, if we could see something of that from, well, Mario Koscielny was the only young player that was taken on the tour to the United States. And Nwari was left behind, and as was Miles Lewis-Skelly, but he was the one who made the plane. So I'm thinking maybe that's what they're proposing for this transfer window, that we don't go out and sign a right-sided player and Koscielny gets some starts. Let me know in the comments what you think. Thank you for watching up to this point. And I just want to say, you could be anywhere in the world and you're here with me. I am really grateful for that. Hopefully you'll be on the journey with me for much longer than this. But on the way, if you hit like as often as humanly possible, we'll be joined by other people. Until I see you again, be lucky. Lots of love.